Welcome, and thank you for being here. Before we begin, just take a moment to arrive. This series looks at the parent relationship from a systemic perspective, not to assign blame, but to restore order where it may have been lost. Today's video is about single parenting and why it is not systemically less than. There is a common belief that children can only thrive when they grow up with both parents in the same home. And when that isn't possible, many single parents carry a quiet weight. They may feel, I'm not giving my child what they really need. They're missing something essential. I should be doing more or being more. But from a systemic perspective, single parenting is not automatically a disadvantage. What matters most is not the outer structure of the family. What matters is the inner order of the system. So let's look at what actually creates strain for children. Children do not struggle most because one parent is absent. They struggle when one parent is erased from the story. One parent is shamed or treated as irrelevant, or the child feels they must replace the missing parent emotionally. In these situations, the child often steps into a role that doesn't belong to them. They become the emotional partner, the main source of comfort, the one who understands everything, or the one who fills the empty space in the parent's life. And this is where the system becomes heavy for the child. In the language of the Wisdom of the Family Soul cards, this connects to the principle of inclusion, which is one of the main principles of the work of family constellations. Systemically, everyone who belongs to the family has a place, even if they are absent, even if they're difficult, even if their presence is painful. When someone is excluded, the system does not become simpler. It becomes more strained. And often, the child unconsciously carries what was pushed out. So let's look at the inner stance of the single parent. A single parent supports the system most by not being perfect and not by trying to replace the other parent, but holding a simple inner stance. The other parent has a place, and my child comes from both of us. It does not mean approving of everything the other parent did. It does not mean allowing unsafe contact. And it also does not mean pretending the past was different. It simply means acknowledging a truth. The child's life came through both parents, and that fact deserves respect. So let's look at the situation when the child becomes the partner. And this sometimes happens in single-parent households. It's a quiet shift that happens. The child becomes the one who listens to the parent's loneliness, or the one who provides emotional stability, or the one who feels responsible for the parent's happiness. may look like closeness. It may even feel like love. But systemically, the direction has reversed. The child is giving upward instead of receiving downward. And this creates a subtle, heavy burden. Because the child is no longer just a child. This can happen for a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old child. They are carrying part of the adult's emotional life. So let's have a look what will help the system settle. What supports the child most is not perfection. It is clarifying roles. The parent remains the parent, the child remains the child. And the absent or less involved parent is still giving a place in the inner picture, even when the other parent is unknown, unavailable, or unsafe. The child benefits from hearing something like, "You came from us both. I take responsibility for what I can, and the rest, my dear child, is not yours." This simple stance restores inclusion in the system. And when inclusion returns, the system often feels more stable inside. And this, then, for the child, is a gentle reframe. From a systemic perspective, the question is not, is this a single-parent home? The deeper question is everyone who belongs allowed their place? Because a system with one parent in the home can still hold deep order. And a system with two parents present can still feel deeply divided. Just let a moment pause for that to sink in. A system with one parent in the home can still hold deep order. And a system with two parents present can still feel deeply divided. What matters most is not the form of the family, it's the inclusion and the order within it. When the missing or absent parent is given a quiet, respectful place in the system, the child no longer has to compensate for that absence. They can relax into their true role, and once again, they are free to just be the child. If something in this video stirred a reaction, you don't have to resolve it right now. Systemic shifts happen slowly, often just by seeing things more clearly. I'll see you in the next video. And if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe, click the like. If you feel free, share this video, but I'd love it if you'd leave a comment below. I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you for being here. Welcome and thank you for being here. Before we begin, just take a moment to arrive. This series looks at the parent relationship from a systemic perspective, not to assign blame, but to restore order where it may have been lost. Today's video is about when a parent is absent, unsafe, or unknown. Not every child grows up with access to both parents. Sometimes a parent leaves. Sometimes they are never known. Sometimes there's addiction, violence, or deep instability. And sometimes distance becomes necessary for safety. In these situations, families often face a very difficult question. How do we protect the child without damaging their sense of where they come from? From a systemic perspective, this is an important distinction because safety and belonging are not the same thing. And one does not have to be sacrificed for the other. Let's take a look at the child's inner reality. Systemically, a child is made of both parents, not just physically, but also the inner image of themselves. So even when one parent is absent, unsafe, or unknown, that parent still lives in the child's system. And when that parent is erased, mocked, or treated as if they don't matter, the child often feels that wound inside themselves. They may not have words for it, but they feel something like, a part of me doesn't belong. A part of me is wrong. A part of me is dangerous or bad. And that is a very heavy burden for a child to carry. In the language of the wisdom of the family soul cards, this connects to the principle of respect. Systemic respect does not mean approval. It does not mean closeness. And it does not mean access. It simply means recognizing reality as it is. This person is your parent. Your life came through them. And that fact deserves a certain quiet respect. Not for their behavior, but for their place in the system. Let's look at the difference between place and behavior. This is an important distinction. Systemically, we separate place from behavior. A parent may have a rightful place in the child's system and still not be safe to be around. A parent may deserve distance and still deserve acknowledgement as the source of life. So protecting the child may mean limiting contact, supervised visits, or no contact at all. And at the same time, the system remains more stable when the parent's place is not erased, because erasing the parent often creates confusion and inner conflict in the child. So let's look what helps the child most. Children are helped most by a stance that is both clear and respectful. For example, a parent or caregiver may hold an inner sentence like, "Your other parent has their place, and I will protect you where protection is needed." Or when speaking to the child, "Your father is your father, and some of his choices were not safe. So I'm taking care of what is needed to keep you safe." This kind of language sells the truth, protects the child, and still honors the systemic place of the parent. Does not force closeness, but it also does not erase origin. So let's have a look when a parent is unknown, does not exist because he or she is not known. Sometimes a child simply does not know one of their parents. There may be no name, no story, no contact at all. Even in these situations, the system still benefits from acknowledgement. A simple stance like, "You come from a mother and father. Even if we don't know anything or everything about them, your life came through both." This gives the child a sense of continuity and belonging. It tells them, your life has the roots. You are not an accident. You come from somewhere. And that can be deeply stabilizing. The child does not need to resolve it. When a parent is absent or unsafe, children often try to make sense of it. They may imagine stories, blame themselves, idealize a missing parent, or reject them completely. But systemically, the child does not need to solve the parent's story. That responsibility belongs to the adults. The child only needs one thing: a clear and respectful picture of where they come from. A caregiver or parent might hold a sentence like, "You come from both of them. I take responsibility for what I can. The rest is not yours." This returns responsibility to the adults and frees the child from carrying what does not belong to them. From a systemic perspective, acknowledging a parent's place does not mean allowing unsafe behavior. Respect does not mean closeness. But when the parent's place is honored, even at a distance, the child's inner world becomes more stable because they no longer have to reject a part of themselves in order to feel safe. If something in this video stirred a reaction, you don't need to have the resolve right now. Systemic shifts happen slowly, often just by seeing things more clearly. I'll see you in the next video. And if you have not done so yet, please subscribe, give me a like. If you want to share the video, feel free to share it. And I'd love it if you leave a comment below. Maybe we can grow the conversation. Thank you for being here. And until next time, be safe. Welcome and thank you for being here. Before we begin, just take a moment to arrive. This series looks at the parent relationship from a systemic perspective, not to assign blame, but to restore order where it may have been lost. Today's video is about returning responsibility to their parents. Many children grow up carrying things that were never meant to be theirs. Not because the parents were bad people, not because anyone intended harm, but because in the family system, certain responsibilities quietly shifted in the wrong direction. And when that happens, children often step in without anyone asking them to. Children begin to take care of parent emotionally. They begin to mediate between adults. They protect one parent from the other. They may carry secrets or try to fix what the parents could not resolve. At the time, this can feel like love or loyalty or maturity. But systemically, something important has happened. The order between generations has been disturbed. In the language of the Wisdom of the Family Soul cards, this connects to the principle of the orders of love. And yes, this is the second time we look at the orders of love. Because the orders of love describe the natural structure that allows families to function with less strain. And one of the most important orders is this: parents give, children receive. Parents carry the weight of adult life. Children are free to grow. And when this order is respected, the system feels lighter. When it is reversed, children often carry burdens that shape their entire lives. Let's look at signs where responsibility was misplaced. When children carry adult responsibility, it often shows up later in life. Not always in obvious ways, but in quiet patterns like feeling responsible for everyone's emotion, struggling to relax or receive help, feeling guilty for having needs, difficulty setting boundaries, and overfunctioning in relationships, or feeling like the strong one all the time. These aren't character flaws. They are often the result of a child who once carried more than they should have. What's a child's hidden hope in this situation? Many adult children still carry an unconscious hope, a hope that one day the parent will finally understand, or the conflict will be resolved. The hope that the family will become what it never was, or the hope that the child's efforts will finally be recognized. But systemically, healing does not usually come from changing the parents. It comes from restoring the order. And that often begins with one quiet inner movement, returning responsibility to where it belongs. Let's have a look at the systemic movement. This movement is not about blaming the parents. It is also not about confronting them. It's not about cutting them off. It's an inner shift, a shift from, I have to carry this, to, this belongs to them. An adult child might hold a sentence like, what happened between you belongs to you. Or, your pain is yours, my life is mine. Or even more simply, you are the parents and I am the child. These sentences are not spoken to punish or distance. They're spoken inwardly to restore order in the system. I wonder what happens when responsibility returns. When responsibility moves back to the parents, something often changes. The child, now an adult, feels lighter. They may still grieve. They may still be anger. There may still be distance, but there is less entanglement, less pressure to fix things, less guilt for living one's own life, less need to compensate for the past, because the system begins to reorganize. And when the order is restored, the child no longer has to stand in the parent's place. Let's look at letting go of the mediator role. For many people, this is one of the hardest steps. Letting go of the role of the peacemaker, the rescuer, the strong one, the one who understands everything, the one who holds the family together. These roles often gave the child a sense of purpose, wow, or identity, or connection. But systemically, they come at a cost. They keep the child tied to responsibilities that were never theirs, and they may delay the movement towards their own life. A powerful inner sentence for this movement can be, dear mom, dear dad, what belongs to you, I leave with you. And what belongs to me, I now carry myself. Or you may simply say, I am the child, you are the parents. These are quiet sentences, but systemically, they restore the natural order. And when the order returns, life often begins to flow more easily. Systemic healing is really about fixing the past. It's about restoring order in the present. And one of the most powerful movements is this: returning responsibility to the parents and allowing the child at any age just to be the child again. If something in this video stirred a reaction, you don't have to resolve it right now. Systemic shifts happen slowly, often just by seeing things more clearly. I'll see you in the next video. I'll see you in the next video. And if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe, like. Feel free to share the video. I'd love it if you leave a comment below so that we can increase this conversation. Until next time, be safe. Welcome and thank you for being here. Before we begin, just take a moment to arrive. This series looks at the parent relationship from a systemic perspective, not to assign blame, but to restore order where it may have been lost. And today's video is about what happens when the ideal world was never available. Throughout this series, we've spoken about the systemic ideal, an inner posture where both parents are acknowledged, neither is excluded, the adult issues stay with the adult, and the child feels free to love both. But for many people, this ideal was never present, not in childhood, not in adolescence, and sometimes not even now. There may have been deep conflict, absence, addiction, emotional neglect, violence, or simply a lack of connection that never changed. And so, the idea of the ideal parent relationship can feel distant or even painful. And there's a quiet hope that many children carry. Many children grow up with this quiet hidden hope, a hope that one day the parent will change. One day the conflict will end. And one day the truth will finally be seen. Or one day the relationship will become what it never was. This hope can live for decades, even when there is distance, even when there's estrangement, even when the parents are no longer alive. Systemically, this hope keeps the child tied to the unfinished story because somewhere inside, the child is still waiting for the system to become whole. In the language of the Wisdom of the Family Soul cards, this final movement connects to the principle of wholeness. Wholeness does not mean perfection. It does not mean that everything was good. It does not mean that every relationship must be repaired. Systemic wholeness means something simpler. It means seeing the family as it truly was, without idealizing and without condemning, just as it is. Because the system settles when truth replaces fantasy. So how do we let go of this idealized past? For many adult children, healing begins with a quiet realization. What I longed for was not possible in this system. Not because I was unworthy, not because I didn't try hard enough, but because the parents who carried their own histories, their own wounds, and their own limitations, those realities shaped the family. This realization can bring grief, and sometimes deep grief. But it also brings something else, relief, because the child no longer has to wait for something that will never come, which allows the child to return to its own life. When the hope For the different past begins to soften. Something new becomes possible. The energy was tied up in fixing the parents, resolving their conflict, proving one's own worth, or waiting for recognition. When the energy that was tied up softens, the child can slowly return to his or her own life. And this is often where true systemic healing begins. Not in changing the parents, but in stepping fully into one's own place. I propose a gentle systemic movement, a quiet inner sentence for this stage may be, dear mom, dear dad, it was as it was. I take the life that came through you and I leave the rest with you. Or you can say, I accept my family as it was, and now I turn towards my own life. These sentences do not seek approval. They are about reality, and reality, when it is faced with respect, often brings more peace than fantasy ever could. Wholeness does not erase pain. Wholeness does not mean the pain disappears. There may still be sadness, anger, distance, or unanswered questions. But the inner struggle begins to soften because the system no longer is being pushed to become something it was not. Instead, it is allowed to be seen in its truth. And from that truth, a different kind of strength can grow. And now I offer a closing reflection for the series. If you followed this series, you may have noticed that nothing here was about perfect parents or perfect families. It was about order. Thank you for staying with me. And take care until we meet again.